This next video is called Moderation Madness. There's a quote from, I think it's from Albert Einstein. At least it was attributed to him, or it's one of the people that it's been attributed to. And it's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And it definitely does apply here with moderation. You're doing the same thing over and over again and you're expecting different results. I've done it myself. How many times have you tried to moderate in one form or another? For me, 30, 40, 50 on the easy end of this, 1,000 one way or another that I tried to moderate. You know, moderation can be either you're trying to moderate the amount that you're drinking in one session, you're trying to moderate the days that you're drinking, so you're cutting out certain days, or you can do what we used to call a long-term moderation. So you'd moderate for a period of time. You just stop drinking for a period of time. Back in Ireland, one of the things was Lent. So it was 40 days. It's a Catholic or Christian holiday, I think. And it's supposed to represent the time that Jesus went into the desert. So it's a good representation, I suppose, people going the dry desert. But that's the type of thing that we're talking about with moderation. Now, one of the reasons that people moderate, or the only reason really that people moderate, is for pain reduction. So moderation equals pain relief. You have either a physical pain, more likely you're going to have a psychological pain. So something outside of yourself is giving you pain. You know, somebody's saying something to you, something is happening outside of yourself. Maybe the hangovers are getting worse and worse and you're just thinking, I can't deal with this, I've got to cut back. But there's a psychological element to this. There's a psychological fear attached to it. But the problem with moderation for pain relief is that once the pain is gone, the motivation to stop is gone, unless you replace that motivation with something else. So we call this the motivation bridge. So we try to use your initial pain that you've got, the reason why you want to stop drinking, and then we start to develop more and more motivations as we go through the months and especially the first weeks and months. Now, what we're talking about with moderation is what we call the moderation loop. So in stage one, you've got 3 stages of this. In stage one is you got the pain that's there. So that's giving you a motivation to stop. And your moderation comes around with, as I said, the amount that you're drinking, the days that you're drinking, or in that overall hiatus where you stick to moderation for a while, you just don't drink for a while. But the thing about moderation is that most people will go through moderation and they'll stop for a while, and they'll pat themselves on the back and they'll go, well done. And it feels like it's working. You know, you've got that determination in the beginning, and this is the pain working, this is the pain motivation working. So 2-3 days, 2-3 weeks, and you're sticking to this plan. Stage 2 comes in when the pain starts to dwindle or the pain disappears. And you say to yourself, you know what? One more drink tonight won't hurt me. I'll have 4 drinks instead of 3. Or I'm going to have an extra night drinking this week because I've had this happening to me, I've had this happening to me, or I'm celebrating this, or I'm celebrating that, and I'm worth it, I deserve it, right? So we start rationalizing ourselves into that 1 drink extra or the 1 night extra. The stage 3 is really where you've resumed normal drinking. I mean, for me, one of the things was that you've been putting yourself through so much pressure, you've been avoiding temptations, you've been, trying to space things out for yourself, and just creating conflict inside of yourself because you want to really go back to what you were drinking for, which was whatever it is, the reward, getting drunk. For me was the idea, going out and not having to cut back at all, and it would be almost like a binge. So I'd be trying to catch up on what I've missed out on. Now, the whole problem with this moderation is that it's a battle that you're never going to win. Moderation, once you take it on, it's something that you're going to have to do over and over again, because you go through stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. You go through that pain. You moderate for a while. You clap yourself on the back. You say, well done. Eventually, you start to loosen up the the ideas and you start to drink a little bit more, and eventually you go back to square one again, but the pain has disappeared, so you're okay. But because you've gone back to square one again, the pain will come back, and the pain will come back a little bit worse every single time. So you're doing this moderation battle over and over again. Even in the moderation itself, your first drink is always going to be much more difficult. So you're going through this moderation battle over and over and over again. You know, that second drink is always easier than the first drink. The third drink is always easier than the second drink, so on and so forth. So it's just something that you're never going to win. You know, you're going to go through that moderation loop again and again and again, because, you know, by the time you go back to normal drinking again, that pain might have been reduced, so the motivation is gone, but the pain will come back. The pain will come back worse than it was before, right? Even ever so slightly worse. But it's just a battle that you're going to face for the rest of your life. It's a discomfort that's going to repeat itself. You know, you're going to get this cycle of up and down pain, and then you get rid of the pain, pain comes back, but it's worse. And that overall then just puts a lot of demands on your own self-esteem, puts a lot of demands on your self-confidence, and these things reduce over time. So you're maintaining this inner conflict. For me, all those years, there was a certain anxiety that was always there, because I knew I was doing something that was wrong for myself, even if it was only the fact that I wasn't able to live the life that I wanted to live. You know, one step forwards, two steps back, that kind of thing. So you're handicapping your life, and you've just got this potential shrinking all over your life. You know, there's so much of your life becomes involved with alcohol. So much starts to revolve around alcohol. And I'm not talking about it just as an entity, but that thinking, you know, that instant gratification thinking. Now, I can't tell you how freeing that is to get rid of that inner conflict and for your mind to start expanding. And the only way that that's going to happen is when you stop drinking alcohol for good. That's the only way that you're going to win the war. You know, it's something that you do once. You stop drinking alcohol, and that's it. You go through all of that, those little discomfort routines. You know, you go through that discomfort. You get to your first week. You get to your first month. You get to your first 6 months. But you've only gone through the discomfort once. There's a lot of thinking to do. There's a lot of hard thinking to do. How you're going to transition and how you're going to transform and go through all of these processes that you need to go in order to create this person who doesn't drink anymore, who doesn't want to drink anymore. But it's well worth it. Now, one of the things that I've noticed most about stopping drinking alcohol was the amount of time that I've gained for myself. You know, no more wasting time on that alcohol haze. You know, that one step forward, two steps back, because I couldn't think straight, because I couldn't plan properly, because, you know, everything that I seemed to do was always being influenced by the instant gratification of alcohol, and then all the other things that happened because I was drinking alcohol, because I wasn't thinking straight. Productivity, not in terms of making stuff and making money and all that kind of stuff, in terms of you yourself and learning and growing as a person, you know, moving towards that potential that you've got, increasing your own potential. You know, I always believe in potential as being, you've got a certain potential as you are now without improving, but you can spend your time either dicking around, or you can spend it trying to learn something that improves yourself. And as you improve yourself, you increase your potential. You know, if you want to get to that best possible version of yourself and your life, then you've got to do this. You've got to try and increase things. And time saving is a huge thing here. You know, when I'm talking about productivity and your potential, it's a huge thing to save every day that you can, you know. And when you've got the same amount of time on your hands as you had when you were drinking, everyone's got the same 24 hours. It's what you do with those 24 hours. It's how productive you are in those 24 hours that counts. So for me, you know, I wish I'd stopped drinking alcohol sooner. That's it's a given. I think most of us do. But it is what it is. You know, you can't go back and you can't change that. There's nothing you can do about it. But it's It's really having that second chance, that second opportunity to do the things that I didn't do back then. And I'm so happy I did that at 46. You know, it could have been now. I could be stopping now and I'd be saying the same things. You know, maybe I wouldn't be saying exactly the same things. I have a lot to learn, but you get what I mean? It doesn't matter what age you are. You've always got a second chance at life. My dad stopped when he was in his late 70s. And he lasted a few more years, and he got that second chance in his life. I don't think he'd have got those years without doing that. So, you know, everything, you know, there's so many studies nowadays that point to this as a poison. Everything around you, I mean, yourself, you listen to yourself, listen to your body. You know, we're surrounded by poisons now. A lot of these, you know, it's the idea of we need things now. We want everything to be instant, and instant usually comes with a price tag. You know, instant food has got a price tag with it. It's not food. It's, you know, it's causing you problems. Instant relaxation with alcohol or any other drugs, or instant anxiety relief, or any of those things are causing you problems, because they're not only poisoning your body, but they're also poisoning your life. You know, they're taking away from that aspect of learning and putting in a slog, you know, in order to get through things. You're putting in the hard work. So a lot of this is self-inflicted. So, you know, really it's trying to avoid, hopefully avoiding long-term health issues by stopping drinking now. And then you'll find that once you stop drinking alcohol, your brain will clear up, everything will clear up, and you'll start moving down a different road. You start taking a different journey, a much more healthier journey, a much more cognizant. You're thinking more about who you are and what you're doing and what the results are going to be, what the consequences are going to be. So just to wrap up here, you know, it's not easy to stop drinking alcohol, but it is simple. You know, we're talking about in this video, the pain and pleasure. So a lot of reason why people want to moderate is you're not actually moderating the alcohol, you're moderating the pain. And once the pain disappears as a motivation, it disappears. It's gone, you know, it's not motivating you anymore. You know, life is about choices and trade-offs. What you choose to do, you've always got an opportunity cost. So, you know, think about that. There's an inner conflict that disappears once you do stop drinking alcohol, that remains and grows when you're moderating. And it's an insane thing to do, because it's causing the same thing. You're trying to hold on to a life which is toxic. It's toxic not only for you and for your system, for your brain, for your life, for everything that you try and do. You're doing the same thing over and over again, trying to get a different result, but you're going to get a worse result, gradually, slowly, worse and worse and worse. The only way to win the battle is to stop drinking alcohol. You stop once, you go through the discomfort once, you transition once, and then you transform. And that's it, it's done. In the next video, we're going to talk about the simplicity of stopping and the reality of change. All right, take care.